Hello, you beautiful people. Today I wanted to talk about some daily waiver wire streaming options for April 26th. So these are going to be guys that weren't too highly rostered, and they're also in order of who I'd pick up first because I don't think giving you guys a million players that are playing today is going to be helpful to anyone. One big thing is that I don't like to stream guys who are questionable because you can't really take the risk on wasting an acquisition for the week, and the chance that they might not play isn't really worth it because they're just a streamer. As always, feel free to drop a like on the video and subscribe so you don't miss any of the future videos. And with that being said, let's get started. So the first player that I would pick up for today is going to be Cole Anthony. He's playing the Lakers, which could be a tough matchup, but I mean, they're missing a lot of key pieces right now. Anthony Davis is on a minutes restriction, and Cole Anthony's been on a really good stretch. Ever since the trade deadline when Aaron Gordon, Fournier, and Vucevic got moved, the Magic haven't really had anyone that's a legitimate ball handler and a playmaker. So Cole Anthony's kind of filled that gap, and he's done really well. He's been on a really good stretch, and I definitely recommend streaming him for today. I think he's going to continue the production. He gives a lot of assists. He's good at scoring, and he's getting starter-like minutes, and I think it's a really good opportunity to pick him up for today. I feel like he's the best option in terms of streaming options, and he's only rostered in 44% of leagues, so not too high right now, and I definitely recommend picking him up while you still can. And then next up is Darius Bazley. And the reason I wouldn't stream him for the week, even though they do have 5 games, is because more than likely he's going to be sitting out a few games because the Thunder have no desire to win any games right now. But with Shea being out, Lou Dort's out, Bazley sort of becomes like the number one option. Surprisingly, him and Poku. And I'm not too high on Poku just because he's so inconsistent, but I feel like Bazley offers some good scoring value as well as he's an underrated rebounder, so I think he's a good option. They're playing Philadelphia, so if Joel Embiid is questionable right now, so if Joel Embiid is to sit out, I think that makes Bazley an even better streamer just because there's not going to be as good rim protection against the Sixers. So I definitely think that's something that you should take advantage of. And speaking of rim protection, the next player on my list is going to be Nerlens Noel, and this is really great for points and categories leagues now that he's seeing about 30 minutes a game. We all know Tom Thibodeau really loves to play his starters, and in terms of category leagues, he's averaging 2 blocks on the season. And that's something that's really going to help you out. Like, he's an insane block contributor, so especially if you're someone that just had Chris Boucher on their team or Miles Turner, with those guys out, I would seriously look at picking up Nerlens Noel, as I think he's a really good contributor all across the board, honestly. The only thing he's kind of lacking in is assists and the occasional dud in terms of points, but I feel like he sort of makes up for it in his peripheral stats, as he's really good at acquiring blocks and steals. So again, Noel, more of a category ad, but for points leagues, he's been really solid as well. So definitely something to keep an eye on just with that many minutes going to him. And then next up is from the LA Clippers, Marcus Morris. And this is because Kawhi is due to be reevaluated in a week, so he might be back on Tuesday. But for tonight, Marcus Morris is a really good streaming option. He's the number 2 option on the team right now behind Paul George. So he's getting quite a few shots. Last game he got 19 field goal attempts, so that's something to look at. He is capable of having those really big games, high scoring numbers, so definitely something to watch out for. As soon as Kawhi is back, though, I think Marcus Morris goes back to being a waiver wire guy. And then moving on, we got someone on the Denver Nuggets, PJ Dozier, and this is kind of in the wake of the Jamal Murray and Will Barton injuries, because when they were playing, PJ Dozier wasn't really someone that I'd recommend having on your team. But now that they're out, there's a lot more shots going to PJ Dozier. I mean, last game he put up 23 points, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists, giving 62 fantasy points. And honestly, I'm expecting similar production against the Grizzlies tonight. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be 62 fantasy points worth as he shot 10 for 13, but he's just being a lot more aggressive in their offense and getting a lot more looks. He's really starting to step up into their starting point guard role now that Jamal's out. So I definitely look at streaming PJ Dozier. He could honestly turn into a long-term streaming option as well. I think he has that kind of potential. But we'll just have to see how he does this next week and sort of decide from there. And then, yeah, another really good blocks ad is going to be Khem Birch of the Toronto Raptors. And similar to Noel, now that Boucher's out, he's getting like 30 minutes a game. And he's a really good candidate. I mean, he's only averaging 0.7 blocks on the season, but as soon as he's got to Toronto in the last 4 appearances, he's averaging 1.8 blocks. So I'd expect more similar production to that going forward. Really decent rebounder as well. He's not going to give you much in the scoring category, but you don't really need that from him in a category league. In points leagues, I wouldn't really recommend adding Birch over any of the guys I've mentioned previously, which is why I have him so low on my list. But I think he could hold some value for a streamer today, whether you're in points or categories leagues. Like I said, mainly categories, but could offer some value in points leagues if everyone else above him is taken in your league. And then just like PJ Dozier, this is someone that also is contributing because of the injuries to the Nuggets. It's going to be Facundo Campazzo. And I could see him holding more value in categories leagues because of his ability to rack up assists. But in terms of point leagues, if he puts up 13 assists like he did last game, he's going to offer some value there. Again, I like to put guys that are for like the really deeper leagues in the last spot, as he's only rostered in about 5% of leagues right now. So this is more for like the 14 team and up leagues, because other than that, like, there's not really any point in streaming Campazzo. but I think he has the potential to go for a really good night tonight against the Grizzlies and hopefully rack up a lot of assists. So then lastly, I'm going to just mention something. If you made it this far into the video, then I'd recommend joining the Discord through the link in the description. Really good place if you want to talk about any waiver wire pickups, trades, or just talk about anything fantasy basketball related. So the link to that is in the description, and I definitely recommend joining. And then lastly, we're going to have some conditional ads, and it's because Luka is listed as questionable for tonight at the time I'm recording this. And if he does happen to miss a game, that would mean that the Mavericks are missing both KP and Luka. And if that happens, I think Jalen Brunson and Tim Hardaway Jr. are must streams for tonight. Both have the potential to go for really high scoring games. Obviously, Tim Hardaway Jr. I think is more of a risk because he's a really streaky shooter, whereas Brunson's more consistent. So I think Tim Hardaway Jr. has more upside as a stream if Luka is hurt tonight. But like I said, if you want a consistent production, I'd recommend going with Brunson. If they are out, I would probably have them above PJ Dozier on this list, maybe ahead of Nerlens Noel in terms of where in like the rank I would pick them up. But yeah, that's going to do it for today. I'm going to try to make these daily to help you guys out in terms of who you should stream for each day. So I hope this helps you guys out. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.